Fact is, facts aren't always facts, even if they're presented as facts. Surprisingly, the most commonly held truths often turn out to be false. To prove this, here's a shockingly large number of lies we've been told to believe our entire lives. Amazing! Rabbits love carrots. Bugs Bunny may love to eat carrots, but real rabbits never really have the same fondness for the orange root vegetable. Instead, a rabbit's staple diet in the wild consists of greens, mainly hay and grass stems. Although a balanced mix of fruits and vegetables are also viable for domesticated bunnies. As for the carrot thing, it most likely came from the 1934 film It Happened One Night. That being said, rabbits do eat carrots, but any bunny owner knows they prefer other foods like bananas way more. Earthworms will regrow if cut in half. If you've ever tried to put this myth to the test, you've probably felt like a murderer, and with good reason. If cut in half, most earthworms will die. However, there is some good news. Earthworms have a distinctive head and tail. The head is located on the end closest to the swollen band, and if cut behind that swollen band, the head of the worm may be able to regenerate, but its tail will most certainly die. The myth likely originates from the fact that a few earthworm species like planarian flatworms are capable of becoming two new worms if bisected down the middle. People eat an average of 8 spiders in a year while sleeping. Spiders are typically ambush predators. They prefer to wait for their prey, rather than to chase them around. Still, most people believe the myth that we each eat about 8 spiders a year in our sleep, but this is a lie. The myth surprisingly came from some person named Lisa Birgit Holst, who supposedly published her work on some Swedish PC magazine in 1993. This too turned out to be false, and it's now considered highly likely that Snopes.com simply fabricated her character and her story as a fact-checking test for internet users. The Great Wall of China is visible from space. On to a classic one. The Great Wall of China has been cited numerous times as being visible from space. This is, of course, absolutely false. At low Earth orbit, or about 2,000 kilometers above sea level, it may be visible as a very thin line, but only barely. Part of the reason it's not very visible is because the materials used to build the wall camouflage with the surrounding mountainous area. To be fair, it is still actually visible out from above our planet, as former NASA astronauts such as Eugene Cernan claim that it is possible under favorable conditions, though only at specific distances and using special imaging equipment. Medieval people thought the world was flat. Numerous ancient thinkers, navigators, and artists observed that the Earth was round far sooner than you've been led to believe. It's actually been known that the Earth was round since the time of the ancient Greeks, a good century before the medieval period. It was Pythagoras who first proposed that the Earth was round, sometime around 500 BC. He based his idea on the fact that the Moon and Earth must be round by observing the shape of the Moon's terminator, the lines created by the shadow Earth casts onto the Moon, which is curved. Then a couple hundred years later, other intellectuals such as Eratosthenes were able to measure with great relative accuracy the Earth's circumference. In fact, virtually all scholars during the Middle Ages knew it was spherical, as monks preserved their teachings. However, in order to act as superior, around the 17th century, Protestants started campaigning that Catholics weren't aware of this, and the myth has been propagated throughout time. The food pyramid is accurate. The food pyramid is a well-known food group diagram today that first appeared in Sweden in 1974. While pretty convincing, it's fundamentally flawed, because most of the information is outdated, and it's heavily influenced by US industries like dairy and meat, who have promoted it over the years as a way to market their food. This leads to serious classification inaccuracies, which can be harmful to our health. For instance, the pyramid dangerously overemphasizes the importance of meat and dairy products, and doesn't explain that its 2 fruit servings are actually the bare minimum. Today, many groups provide updated alternatives to the food pyramid. Tic-tacs are sugar-free. Behind the label of any Tic-Tac pack, you'll read in fine print that each pack has 0 grams of sugar. However, this is because they're taking advantage of a labeling loophole. In reality, each mint is 94.5% sugar. The product takes advantage of the fact that each tiny mint has less than 0.5 grams of sugar, which is the minimum measured sugar serving size officially defined by the FDA. So they can get away with calling it sugar-free without any legal issues. The tongue has specific taste zones. The tongue map was a concept that came from an inaccurate reinterpretation by Harvard scientist D.P. Hannig as he translated a German research paper. Originally, the study simply showed a marked difference in detection thresholds around varied areas of the tongue, but due to the misunderstanding, the idea was eventually spread through science textbooks propagating the myth. In reality, your taste receptors are distributed more or less evenly across your tongue. You can taste sweet things just as well as in any part of your tongue, not just the tip. The Garden of Eden's fruit was an apple. The forbidden fruit is a famous fruit described in the book of Genesis, which is typically depicted as an apple in many illustrations and interpretations. However, there's actually no mention in the original Hebrew text that it ever was actually an apple. It was described as a fruit, but it never specified exactly what fruit it was. In fact, in other places and cultures, the forbidden fruit is represented as grapes, pomegranates, and even a mushroom, such as the one depicted in an old 1291 fresco at the Plain Carrault Chapel in France. Goldfish only grow as big as the tank. This myth is partly true, but it's more complicated than you think. The fact is, goldfish do often exceed lengths of 12 inches, because unlike humans, they grow until they die. However, the reason they don't get this large in a normal fish bowl is quite sad. What really stunts a fish's growth is poor water quality due to the lack of a filtration system and improper care. This means they often die at a young age. We only use 10% of our brain power. It's relieving to think that we can become so much more intelligent and creative simply by harnessing unused parts of our brain. But sadly, this isn't the case. Although it's true that at any given moment, not all of the brain's regions are working, neuroscientists using imaging technology have shown that, like the body's muscles, most of the brain is continually active over a 24-hour period. The myth likely spread due to a series of misattributions to numerous academics, including Albert Einstein. No single academic has managed to prove it. Coffee is made from beans. Coffee beans aren't actually beans. They're officially classified as seeds. Only plants of the Fabaceae or Leguminosae family are true beans, and unfortunately, coffee isn't one of them. The term bean is used simply because of its resemblance to an original bean. Since then, it's kind of stuck. In addition, the term coffee bean has a more produce-like sound to it, as opposed to simply referring them as coffee seeds. Peanuts are a type of nut. If you're looking for a rightful member of the Leguminosae family, look no further than the trusty peanut. Yes, they're classified as legumes. Peanuts are far closer to beans and lentils than walnuts and chestnuts. The primary characteristic of a legume is that it's an edible seed that's encased inside a pod. This is why coffee isn't a bean, but peanuts are. Also, unlike almonds or cashews, peanuts grow underground, a product of a bush-like creeping plant reminiscent of other bean-producing plants. Chameleons change color for camouflage. Chameleons are famously known for their color-shifting skins, but you'd be wrong to believe that this ability of theirs is used solely for camouflage. Though some species adjust their colors to hide from predators, they mostly change their skin pigmentation as a response to certain mood changes, or if temperature or light levels shift. They also use this ability to communicate with other chameleons as a kind of social signal to convey emotion. Funnily enough, they can run quite fast, which is how they often escape from predators. Mount Everest is the tallest mountain in the world. This basic known fact is still technically true, but only if we're talking about the tallest mountain above sea level. If you really want the tallest mountain ever on Earth, the title actually goes to the Mauna Kea volcano in Hawaii. From sea level, This active mountain is only 4,207 meters towards the peak. But if we include the real base of the mountain, which is at the oceanic base, it stands as high as 10,000 meters tall. This is roughly 1,500 meters higher than Mount Everest, which currently has an official peak record of 8,848 meters. The closed-door buttons on elevators work. Closed-door buttons on elevators might seem to work when you smash them down really hard, but actually they almost never do in most developed nations like the United States. Almost all elevators on all modern buildings today are designed to wait a certain amount of time before opening and closing. It may feel as if the button worked, but the truth is it would have worked on its own schedule anyway, which is why in a lot of elevators the button isn't even connected to anything. According to PENAFIEL, Executive Director of the National Elevator Industry Trade Association, the button's function changed in 1990 when the Americans with Disabilities Act instituted rules giving those with mobility issues more time to get onto the elevator. Rules include how far the elevator doors are positioned from the call button, to ensure those with disabilities can catch the elevator in time. So today it's more of a placebo button to make you feel like you did something to help. That said, it differs from country to country, so if you're in Britain, the button may actually work. So, which lie surprised you the most? And do you know any more I could have mentioned? Let me know in the comments section down below. Thanks for watching.